Welcome to another video, friends. I'm shooting this video back to back because I'll be busy starting tomorrow. I'm going to the north of Japan. In Japan, there are 47 prefectures. By the end of this trip, I'll have done more than half of the 47 prefectures. So it's pretty cool. It's very interesting to see the different cultures that exist here in Japan and all that stuff, but that's not related to what we're talking about here. I wanted to talk about why I don't like to teach jazz guitar. Even though I'm very, very experienced at it, I have a lot of knowledge that not a lot of people have. So why is it then that I don't like to teach it? We're gonna talk about this right now. But first, please like, please subscribe. It makes me very, very happy. So the reason for that is exactly as I said in last week's video, which I shot about 5 minutes ago. I ended with this thing where I'm saying that everything is situational. And I'm not a big fan of this kind of one-on-one thing where the person comes once a week. I'd rather spend a lot of time with the student. That's why I love the homestay thing. We spend a lot of time together. We go out. I take them to meet people. I get them to jam with people. And I get to see the student in many different environments where I can then make better assessments and offer better, advice as to what they should be doing, what they should be looking out for. And sometimes, I think I said this in another video, the best lessons that I ever got were not from one-on-one lessons, but from the environment where one person said just one little thing after having seen me in one particular situation. And they said, you know what, I saw you do this at this thing. Have you considered maybe doing this instead? Just a case in point, the one of the first things that I was taught long time ago, it was with Vavao Adler. He probably doesn't even remember. I was playing like many other people play gypsy jazz like this. Now, you might be watching this, and if you're coming from a gypsy jazz background, you might be wondering, what's wrong with that? Actually, nothing's wrong with that. But Vava pointed something very important to me, is that Django, or a lot of great gypsy players, almost never use this chord. Yet, in most books or instruction books or whatever, instruction videos, this is the first chord that is taught. And that's the chord that I used to teach as well, because I just repeated what everyone said. But wait, Django didn't use this chord? What? And guess what? Vava was right. I started listening to the recordings. Django, I cannot think of an instance. I'm not saying there isn't one, but if there is, please, just point it out to me. It will be cool. But if there is, it's the exception, not the rule. I cannot think of an instance where Django actually used this chord in the context of rhythm playing. Rhythm playing. He used it as a soloist. Right? But when it comes to rhythm playing, Django played with this handicap. The width of the finger, the neck is much bigger, so I'll have to do it like this. But Django played this chord instead. Or this chord. It's big neck. Big neck, but I still managed to do it. But he did it like this, there are pictures of him. He used this chord or this chord, just a triad, 4 notes, maybe 5. And he did it like this. And then, another thing in gypsy jazz, we are often taught this Django chord, C6-9, which is great. But when I listen to Django, I would not say almost never, but he used this chord mainly in specific situations. More often than not, instead of using this chord, he used this one. He did it like this. And you can see there's the video of him playing J'attendrai. This is his go-to chord in this position. Not this one. And remember, he had a handicap, right? With this handicap, this would be so much easier. So would this. Yet, he chose to do the hard one, quote unquote hard one, because it's all about artistic intent. Of course, Django is no longer with us to answer but there must have been a reason for him to use those chords. He was thinking about the art first and foremost, not about what's easy to play. So Vava pointed that out to me. Then other gypsy musicians like Fapi also pointed out similar things to me. It's like, wow, it got me really, really thinking about my choice in harmony. That's kind of where it started, my obsession with harmony. So thank you so much, Mr. Vavao Adler. And what a pleasure it was, what an honor it was for me when you invited me to record an album with you alongside Hono Winterstein. That's the biggest honor, one of the biggest honors I've ever received. But anyway, yes, little advice like that from different players. I remember when I accompanied Stokolo Rosenberg. We were playing, I think, his composition Double Jeu. For this rhythm, he gave me one little advice, and I was just so grateful. He wanted me to play the upstroke with more accent. I guess in those days my accent was not strong enough, so he really wanted to hear that. Birelli Lagren, the advice I got from him is to be confident in my rhythm playing. The thing is, by the time I played with Birelli, I had a lot of experience playing rhythm. But the thing is, Birelli is so crazy unpredictable, especially in his time feel, that and it's all intentional. That it made me a little bit nervous. Like, oh man, what am I supposed to do with my rhythm? Like, but Birelli just told me, be confident in your rhythm playing, and that will help me a lot. So I'll give me a lot of freedom to do the things that I do, the crazy rhythmic stuff that I do. So that was very, very good advice. And when I worked with Vava Adler, also alongside Hono Winterstein, I noticed the confidence that Hono had. Hono would sometimes make little mistakes. It wouldn't always be precise what he was doing, but he did it with so much confidence that you don't really hear those mistakes unless you're really concentrating the way I was. And that was just such a eye-opening moment for me. And that's, as you guys know, Hono played rhythm for Birelli for many, many years. And that's what Birelli wants. He wants confidence. Of course, you shouldn't play like crap, but play well, but play with confidence. Little tidbits like that are situational, rather than coming to me once a week. It's kind of like this. I have a lot of friends, the same boat as I am, who are studying Japanese very hard. But I hope they never watch this video. But I've completely surpassed every single one of them, and all the Japanese group classes that I attend in Japan, across Japan, I'm consistently the best at speaking and being able to carry a conversation in Japanese without feeling stuck. There is a reason for that. It's because, as I said in previous videos, I knew how to take advantage of the environment. I know the secret, I know the formula, and I know how to follow the formula. And one of the formulas to getting good at Japanese is, guess what? Guess what? Is to actually speak Japanese. And to be able to speak Japanese, what do you need? You need people to talk to. So I go out all the time. I have a lot of Japanese friends. I make a lot of friends. I talk to them all the time. We have conversations on, Messenger, whatever, like we use Line. I think it's like the Japanese version of WhatsApp. We talk a lot, every single day. Hey, what's up? What are you doing tonight? You want to hang out? Blah, blah, blah. Hey, want to go see this show? Want to go to a jam session? Want to do this? Every single day. It's not because I'm a genius. It's because I knew how to exploit the environment. Whereas all my classmates and all my friends, I asked them, do you have any Japanese friends? Do you go out to meet people? Do you do club activities to meet people? No. The only chance they get to speak Japanese is in the classroom. No wonder why I was able to progress. So it's the same thing with jazz music. If you want to get good at jazz, hey, guess what? You gotta start playing jazz. Oh my God. I've seen people say, okay, I'm gonna practice for 2 years real hard so I can start to play with people. It's like, what? No. Start playing with people right now. You can find people to play with. You can find a way to participate even though you're not advanced. You can definitely... Man, if you're just playing rhythm guitar, it doesn't have to be gypsy jazz. Just go to a jam session and say, hey, I just want to play rhythm. Is it cool? So just do something very discreet, like Autumn Leaves. Right? That's not complicated. Yet I meet a lot of people. I'm not targeting anyone. If you think, oh, he's talking about me, no. Because I met many people say, oh, I'm not ready to play with anyone. I'm going to practice 6 hours a day for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and then I'll be ready. I've seen this happen. After many years, they're still nowhere ready to play with people. Why? Because they haven't even started playing with anyone. They haven't acquired the skill. There is a formula. There is a formula that is going to yield results. You have to believe in it. So you have to trust in the system. the process. I made a video that was released some weeks ago. I told you how I kind of got good at harmony was by learning a bunch of songs. It wasn't by studying like 2-5-1 formulas or whatever. Drop 2 voicings, drop 4 voicings. None of that. I'm not saying that that stuff is bad. Go ahead and practice it. But really, if you want to get good at quote unquote jazz harmony or learning songs, guess what you got to do? You got to learn songs, and then you got to learn the chords that go with each song in the appropriate style. So if you're playing, I don't know, let's say, the example I always use, I Can't Give Anything But Love. You're playing in a 1930s style. You're playing in a modern style. Learn different sets of harmonies according to the style, the genre, the era. Listen carefully. And if you can't hear what's happening, find a mentor who can tell you what harmonies are being played. Listen to what the bass player is doing, what the piano player is doing, the guitar player. You can. This is how I made sense. That's how I became very confident with harmony, by listening a lot to a lot of recordings, and I realized, oh, okay, so this piano player is playing this chord, and this guitar player is playing this chord. It's not compatible, but they're resolving together. You know, it's very, very fascinating. So the reason why I'm making this video today is because some weeks ago I released a video, something about like a brutal metronome practice thing. I don't know what the title was. I think it sounded like brutally difficult jazz exercise or whatever. Or I'm with my Homestay student Andre, and we're doing this metronome thing. And someone commented like, there are a lot of people who cannot play with a metronome, and they sound great. Why should I practice this metronome exercise? Something to that extent, like the metronome sounds like robotic. Even though you guys play great, when you play with the metronome, it just kills the mood. Why do you practice with the metronome? So I want to address this question right now, because if you do what I say, you get into the habit of playing with people, you will soon realize that time feel is very important, as long as you keep your ears important. And this is something that I talk about with a lot of people who are very serious. Like, training your ears to become sensitive to time is a curse. Because even a lot of advanced musicians are not sensitive to time feel. Like the super top level players, they are. They really care about like the time feel to the extent that I do. And it's often a curse when we play with people who are not aware of such things. And I warn people that when I give them this training, they're going to be forever cursed. They're going to start hearing things that other people cannot hear. And they're going to start to feel like very alone, because they won't have anyone to talk to about it. And because if you talk about it with people who aren't aware of it, they might get offended. We all need a safe space in 2024. So this metronome exercise that I suggested, where you put the metronome on just beat 1 of every bar, every 2 bars, every 3 bars, 4 bars, is not about being perfect like a metronome. I've mentioned that in the video. We can never be perfect. It's about listening. It's about developing awareness. Having that metronome on just 1 beat forces us to make quick decisions. Was I rushing? Was I dragging? How much? And in that split second when you hear the metronome, you have to make extremely quick adjustments. And I was proving it time after time in that video. I've done it so much. Well, it's not necessarily just thanks to the metronome. It's also thanks to playing with a lot of players, where I realized a decision that I made a long time ago is, when I play music, I want to play music in such a way that everyone sounds good together. I remember when I was in university, I was in a choir, and the choir director said something very, very interesting. One little advice, but it stayed with me till this day. He was complaining that there were 2-3 people in the choir that had perfect pitch, and he was pissed off at them for keeping the pitch when everyone was slightly shifting. You have to make sure that everyone sounds together. If the pitch is going to shift, which is of course unfortunate, but if it's going to shift, make sure everyone is shifting in a consistent way so that it's not too noticeable to the listener. And so I was often in situations where I played with other players who had, I guess, questionable time feel. But me, as someone who was very confident about where the time should be, I made sure that I locked into them so everyone sounded good together. I had an experience, man. Should I say it? I'll say it. I played a Gypsy Jazz Festival in Tokyo. I played with some of the most famous Gypsy Jazz players in Japan, and on stage, five Gypsy Jazz guitarists. One of them wasn't a Gypsy Jazz guitarist, so he's excused. But four, and I was playing rhythm. Make sure when I played rhythm, I played in such a way that everyone is together. Boom! I know how to do this. When it was my turn to solo, suddenly we had four different rhythms happening at the same time. I was like, oh my, ah! So even like the most famous players or high, quote unquote, high level players have not developed such skills, and it's always been a point of frustration for him. I made a video about this recently, right? You guys watched it, I think 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, whatever. It's such a huge point of frustration for me, and so I've been very lucky that I got to play with so many players of all calibers, some famous players, local players, etc. And it's always made me think, all right, what can I do to make sure that everyone sounds good? So my philosophy is to go with the flow. If I hear a bass player dragging, and I'll obviously try to give hints, but if that's just not working, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to follow the bass player, or whatever. The best situation, like when I play with top level players like William Brunard, is we're constantly looking at each other. We're like kind of communicating each other without ever saying anything, looking at each other. We're so together that we are locked in, even though sometimes our time feels might not always be, let's say, exactly the same. We manage to be together because we see, okay, Dennis is maybe a little bit ahead of the beat. I should just push the beat, or I say, oh, the bass player is a little bit ahead of. We're always together, always synchronized. It's such an incredible feeling. It's a feeling that I rarely get to have these days. But anyway, yeah, woo, amazing. William Brunard and a few others. This awareness thing is so important. That's what putting the metronome on beat 1 teaches you that, or beat 2, beat 3, 4. As long as it's only happening once every few seconds, it forces you to become aware of this. And if you can do this without feeling so stressed out, then you're going to be in a very, very good place in terms of awareness. And that's the thing. I'd rather teach someone in the real life context. We go to a jam session together, we jam together, and I can hear what the student is doing. It's like, hey, I noticed that you were dragging on this in this song. Why was that? Is it because you were nervous, you didn't know the chords well, or did you realize you were dragging, or you're rushing, or you played the wrong chords? Little tips like that in the moment. That's the kind of teaching situation that I like to be in. And so far, I was only able to do this in homestay situations. I don't know economically if it's feasible to do this, like where someone comes to me almost every single day, but don't have to stay for an hour. We play for 30 minutes. We eat together. We have conversations. Yeah, that's my ideal way of teaching music, of teaching jazz. And that would be the same. If I had to teach someone Japanese, I don't want it to be a one-on-one lesson. Like I said, I learned so much more about speaking Japanese from friends than with actual lessons. Although the lessons are good. Maybe I'll talk about that in another video. But anyway, food for thought. Let me know what you think. Oh yeah. Hey, I'm back. I wanted to add a little something that I think is very important. I've talked about this before. So this thing about why I'm not a fan of the one-on-one lesson thing. Let's say with Gypsy Jazz, one question I get a lot is, what's the correct way to play Gypsy Jazz rhythm? People argue about this online. And it's a very difficult question to answer in the context of a one-on-one lesson because it depends on the situation. And I'd rather teach how the correct sound, the correct time feel in Gypsy Jazz rhythm in the context of us being in the real life context. We're playing a gig or at a jam session. What's the appropriate sound to use? What's the appropriate volume, Because one thing is, I see a lot, and people say, oh, don't play Gypsy Jazz rhythm too loud. And it just depends, though, what's the context. If you're supporting an instrument that's super loud and it's noisy and you're not amplified, maybe you have to, bam, bam, bam a little bit without making it sound too abrasive. On the other hand, people take that advice too literally, to the point where they do the exact, they play too quietly, and that's something a lot of good players complain about all the time. I remember when I was playing with a famous player, and they said, "Oh, thank you, Dennis." It's like, why? Your rhythm. What? When I play with so and so, it's like they play like this, and I can't hear when I'm playing. I can't hear them, so I have no idea what the time feel is. Whereas you're just like, you're listening to my soloing, and you're adjusting the volume. You're not so loud that you cover me, but you're just loud enough so that I can hear you. That's what I do. Awareness. So if someone is playing like this, then I switch to this. But if someone's like, then I'm not gonna do this. I'm gonna do it. And if someone's like playing like a trumpet or something, and it's in a noisy outdoor venue, whatever, then, and we're not amplified, then I might have to, So should I use this sound, that sound, etc.? It just depends. And hopefully you're playing with good musicians. Like I said earlier, my priority is to make sure everyone sounds good together. And if we can only be as good as the weakest link. So one thing that often happens, let's say with bass players, let's say you're playing a ballad, like in Gypsy jazz, like Nuage. So it goes like this. The bass player is doing this. Actually, can you do this for me? Play this. You got that? B flat, E flat, A, D, G, A. Let me just do it one more time for you. 1, 2, 3, 4. Make it legato, right? Let's try it together. 1, 2, 3, 4. It should work, right? Do the exact same thing now. 1. Don't change a thing. Do exactly the same. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that doesn't sound good together. The legato and staccato together. So sometimes we're playing a ballad. It's the end of the melody. And the bass player doing that sound. That's great. 2, 3, 4. And I switch to this. And the bass player continues this. It kills the mood. So then I hear, okay, this bass player is just not listening to me at all. I'll just switch back to this. Which is unfortunate, because then there's no contrast, there's no evolution, there's no dynamics. It would be great, and that's what it is with William Brown. Sometimes I will suggest something, sometimes he will suggest something, but we catch it right away. So again, the same thing. 2, 3, 4. Right there with me. Bravo, William. Then suddenly, the bass switches to the exact same character. That is so amazing. That's something I can only teach in context. It cannot be in the one-on-one lesson. So yeah, that's further proof why I prefer to teach that way than the traditional pyramid scheme way of teaching lessons. You come to me once a week, pay me for 4 lessons a month. No, I want to hang out with you a lot. I'm very invested in you. And that's why for me, having one student is already one too many. 2 students is a lot. I prefer to have just a few, Or if I'm going to have a group, I want them to be hanging out together all the time. And then that's cool. So we can be learning the same thing at the same time. Even if one person is less advanced, they can focus on just the rhythm. The advanced players can focus on the company. We grow together because in the end, I think this is one of the biggest problems with music education, especially in jazz, is we're so focused on being soloists that we don't even focus on learning how to play music as a band and to think, as Duvet says, there are people who play music professionally and there are people who play music artistically. And to think artistically is to consider different things: the tempo, the character, the dynamics, the chord choices, the harmony, how many solos, how many courses should a soloist take, how many soloists should play in a song, the order of the soloists, the arrangement of the song. Do we have to always play the melody in the beginning and then after solo the melody at the end? Why not just melody in the beginning, solos, trade, and then without going to the melody at the end, you just build it up and then end, you know? These are things, that's why I love so much playing with Duvet, because he's someone who plays with a lot of artistic intent. So there we go.